Здравейте, Абнормал подкаст. С удоволствие ви показвам и презентирам следващия гост. Благодарение на Фитнес 1 имаме поредица от много интересни гости. Аз просто не знам как ще продължим след това следващата година. Искам да ви представя най-добрия позор в бодибилдинга. Човека, който промени позинга в световен мащаб. Единственият неповторим и никой не може да го подражава и не подражаем до сега. Хищникът, Predator, is the Кай Грийн. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I am deeply honored. Thank you. What a warm and awesome welcome. I am deeply honored, brother. Thank you so much.
Да. Феновете на бодибилдинга съм сигурен, че те ще го оценят. За нас е истинско удоволствие. Не знам дали когато си започвал да се състезаваш, си е имал идеята, че ще стигнеш до това ниво и че хората така ще се радват да те видят.
It is certainly something that is it is humbling. It really is very humbling. But with saying that, I think in the heart of every athlete that aspires to do, with the aim to do really, really well at the sport they love, on some level, at the time that you start, even at the time of the most humblest beginnings, dare I say, somewhere in that is this bold ambition, this very large idea of possibility that inspires you. And because of that inspiration, you're willing to work, you know. I think to say this is to say that there's something that's not humble in that. You know, I think hope is audacious. There's a certain sense of entitlement that some people would say is necessary when a person aspires to do something really well, you know. So on the one hand, I think I can say, oh, never in my wildest dreams. But on another hand, absolutely. Success is a expectation that comes along with the willingness to work hard. So if you're willing to work hard, then why not?
Ако постоянно сте в неудобна позиция, обаче имате нужда от удобни чорапи, отивате на сайта abnormal.bg и си поръчвате. Ти винаги си приемал бодибилдинга като изкуство или по-скоро кога прие бодибилдинга като изкуство?
I think that the artistic expression is something that's present at the root of this experience. It is undeniable. There are people that may argue. I've met a number of people in my travels that have said, no, I'm not artistic at all. You know, I don't care about those things. I'm a real person. But I think that is just a misconception. Bodybuilding, you know, the pursuit of developing aesthetics, balance, symmetry, muscularity, the ability to recognize clean lines, all these things are artistic expressions. To look for them is to look for and create the presence of art.
Колко време ти отнема да подготвиш един позинг и по-скоро какво те вдъхновява за това?
So here's the thing. Posing isn't just pretty movements and flashy in-between muscle flexing poses. Posing is something that you're technically working on every time that you activate muscles. The same neurological awareness that you use to train muscles. The ability to connect with your rear delts or your rhomboids. You can imagine an athlete doing rows, bent over barbell rows, pull-ups, activating your lats, and more lats. The ability to be able to train and to connect with muscles all over your body. This neurological awareness is an undeniable part of gaining access to your instrument. On stage, when you're posing, you're using that to display muscle. But in the gym, when you're training, you're using that to develop muscle, to build muscle. It's really all an expression of one and the same thing, I believe.
Да, но вече да съчетаеш това изразяване на мускулатурата заедно с ритъма на музиката.
Yeah. I mean, there in that lies the artistry. But technically, the ability to identify, connect with, and develop these muscle groups primarily, it talks about gaining access, the ability to use your instrument. The more access, the more ability, the more your mind is able to connect with your muscle, the more ability you have to be able to flex those muscles.
Но кое идва първо? Първо избираш музиката за позинга или първо нагласиш самите пози или всичко става заедно?
tribulsbulgarian.com, сайта, в който откриваме най-добрите аминокиселини BCA 20:1:1, най-високата доза левцин, 350 капсули, пиеш и усещаш как мускулите ти растат. Уникална стимулация на растежен хормон от левцина. tribulsbulgarian.com и обратно към видеото.
I think one, you start training your physique. You start training and you develop your physique. And with training, you have the mind to muscle connection that you're using to allow you to gain accessibility to your muscles. And I think you do it once, you do it twice, you do it 3 times, you do it 1,000 times, you do it 4,000 times. Those pathways become sharper, and you can find it easier to do those things. And with that, you can add little extra things. So now you have time to consider beat, rhythm, timing.
Не, в смисъл, много хора позират. Дори забелязвам, много хора се опитат да имитират дори Майкъл Джексън, но никой не може да имитира теб на сцената.
You know, there used to be a guy named Russ Tusco that was amazing. He guest posed at the Nationals, NPC Nationals in the 80s. This guy was unbelievable. Surprisingly enough, there's not a lot of video footage I've been able to find of him lately. But at the time that Michael Jackson's Smooth Criminal was like all the rave, I had the privilege of sitting in the audience and watching Russ Tusco pose as a guest poser. And oh my God, just absolutely amazing. Not only did he take Michael Jackson choreography, make it his own, but interestingly enough, he was so astute that he was able to fuse bodybuilding vocabulary inside of his ability to impersonate Michael Jackson. When I tell you that what he did was absolutely amazing, I knew I'm doing it a disservice. But I'm saying this to say that, you know, the truth is there's like posing genius everywhere. And I think it's important to say that there are people that they say when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And I am honored to hear you give me such a solid compliment today. I know that I grew up as a fan of this sport. You know, I was talking with someone yesterday, and I understand the idea. I had an NPC card, you know, since I was a teenager. You know, I've competed as a teenager. I've competed as a amateur, fledgling pro in the smaller organizations. I've grown through the years and came to the NPC and competed as a fledgling amateur and eventually earned my status to compete as a pro. I started from the teenage Mr. Basement, you know, and had gone as far as, you know, standing on the Super Bowl Olympia stage of my sport. I would be less than my best to say to you anything less than I saw some amazing people do some amazing things when it came to developing their physique, to expressing their art form, and I stand on their shoulders today. I once watched Sean Ray perform at the 1980, I want to say 84, could be wrong, but the Nationals. Sean Ray was probably the youngest pro of the sport at that time. In the light heavyweight category, there was a lot of talent competing in that show. And this was a time when you could very easily come to the show, be amazing, but only one man could go and get that pro card. There was only 4 pro cards allocated a year. So in any given category, you could very easily find people that were going to compete. They were competing. Eventually, they were going to turn pro and become legends as pros in their own right, you know. But because only one man could go, it was highly intense competition. So in this particular show, I remember there was like, there was Sean Ray, there was Vince Terminator Taylor, Daryl Stafford, Vinnie Comerford, a number of athletes that are each going to go and become regular fixtures in Flex Magazine, Muscle and Fitness. But that year, Sean Ray came in and he looked nothing short of amazing. He did a posing routine to, I believe, Jennifer, it wasn't Jennifer Holliday, but it was, damn, it escapes me. But You're Not Going. It was like right out of Dreamgirls. It was like a modern day Broadway performance. Unbelievable. He didn't dance. He was a consummate professional. He used bodybuilding posing vocabulary. He had an expansive posing vocabulary. And ultimately, it is one of those routines that for me, I could watch, I could study. And I think I've just become that much better for being able to witness it and be exposed to it.
Ти тогава си бил на 14?
I started competing when I was like 14. 13-14.
Понякога не е нужно да пътуваш километри, за да усетиш вкуса на добре приготвената храна. Добре дошли в Алекс Фиш. Кой има време да се тревожи за готвене, когато може да се наслаждава на идеалната вечера или специален обяд с колеги в офиса? Пресни морски дарове, суши, риба от най-висок клас, доставени до вашата трапеза. Хората, които съчетават качеството и удобството в ежедневието си, вече са открили доставките на Алекс Фиш. Хапват и се наслаждават на храната всеки ден, без да мислят за нейното приготвяне. Какво още чакаш? Най-вкусното е на един клик разстояние. Време да се насладите на удоволствието, добрата кухня и бързата доставка.
В тази детска възраст, дори бих казал, ти си успял да четеш на азбуката на бодибилдинга. От позинга на тези велики състезатели. Много малко хора успяват да го направят на тая възраст.
Just a few? You know what? I think it's the beautiful thing about this experience that we do when we talk about our fitness journey, training, exercising, you can start it right where you are. You can start your fitness journey right where you are. You don't have to wait to that day when you get a more impressive education about training. You don't have to wait until you get to that place where you got the more solid knowledge of nutrition. You don't have to wait until you get to that place where you got just the right supplement and the right name of the gym that you train at. You can start your fitness journey right where you are at the time that you think to do it. For me, it was as simple as getting down and doing my first set of push-ups.
Точно тази връзка мускул-мозък. Всъщност, ти когато тренираш, позираш ли?
So I believe you do, but it's not posing. It's neurological awareness, tensing and flexing, awareness through activation. Never should it be just picking things up, putting things down. A bodybuilder is concerned about activating, stimulating muscles. The only way you can do that is to be turned on, fired, and connected with the muscle, you know? I think that's probably the first lesson of the beginning portion of your training experience. Now looking back on it, with so many years invested in being a training aficionado or whatever, I think in the beginning, the better you are at being able to identify, isolate, and connect with your muscles is how you gain access to your instrument. With more time, nutrition, rest, activation, you can stimulate the creation of the muscles that you say you want. That's ultimately how we build a physique.
Самите тежести къде са? Защото много от съвременните методи говорят за прогресивно натоварване с тежести. Аз не съм привърженик точно на този начин, но това е което се. Но мисля, че в някаква степен науката проваля интуицията за трениране.
So, explain that to me. What do you mean?
Искам да те питам всъщност тежестите колко са важни при самата тренировка. Дали трябва да дигаме тежко или просто трябва да слушаме интуицията си?
So, here's the thing. Listening to your intuition is important. But to whom much is given, much is required. A lot of us in the earlier stages of our training don't know. So we have to spend time developing an understanding. If someone doesn't know, then they can't talk about intuition. You get me? Think about the average beginner that is truly a beginner without enough experience or information to really pull from to make well-informed decisions. Truly, an avid beginner can't talk to me about intuition. I think there are times when a beginner needs to acknowledge that they're a beginner and listen, pay attention, do and follow. I think once you've done enough doing and following, eventually the beginner becomes exposed to more information. Now, armed with that information, the beginner has learned how to think. They've learned how to make sense of, and they're capable of reasoning. Now with that, we can start talking about intuition. But nah, you can't, intuition without awareness, without development of accessibility to being able to command your instrument, it's inappropriate. You know? How many times have you met a person, let's say a child, the child is 5 years old. The child would like to stay up and watch his favorite program. The adult parent says, child that is 5 years old, you need to go to bed at 8 o'clock. This adult is the parent with 35 years of experience above the 5 years of the child. the adult is able to consider more expansive levels of information. If the child would tell me, oh, but my intuition says I'd like to be able to satisfy my, I think you should go to bed, you know. But you can develop intuition, you know, but that intuition is not pulled out of the sky. It's based on exposure to information, you know? So get that information. I think the information is necessary. Bruce Lee was a master of Kung Fu. And with that mastery, he was able to identify shortcuts and develop an abbreviation called Jet Kune Do. But it wouldn't work if he was not a master of Kung Fu already. Jet Kune Do works because it was designed by a person that was already a master of Kung Fu. So I'm all about intuitive reasoning and stuff. Just, there's something to be said for exposure, you know, and understanding your subject.
Добре, а за теб в такъв случай, кой е мастър на кунг-фу в бодибилдинга?
Okay. So check it. If we were to look at Kung Fu, right, and identify what the definition, Kung Fu, I believe it's a way of life, a way of being. You know, it is a particular way of being that affects not only the way you move, the way you think, the way you approach these basic functioning of your life principles. If we were to liken the term, you know, a bodybuilding practitioner or athlete, I think you can say, okay, well, as an athlete, an aspiring athlete, you can be a bodybuilder without necessarily being an athlete. You know, at the root of this experience, I believe, is self-development through self-mastery. I'm going to say it again. At the root of this experience, I believe, is the idea of self-development through self-mastery. Because that is so, every aspiring, developing bodybuilder is a person that's invested in their development. And with that, you are naturally, by the word go, a practitioner of self-development through self-mastery. So to answer your question, all aspiring people living in that subculture, identifying under the title of a bodybuilder, wouldn't reach that.
Искам да поговорим за Джордж Фара. Ти си работил с него доста време. Мисля, че от последните състезания на Олимпия работихте заедно.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Какво научи от него?
Oh man, honestly, I've learned a lot. You know, he's a doctor now.
Yeah.
George Farah is, he's one of those people that have, behind the scenes, been very, very helpful for the sport. And for athletes that have gotten a chance to work with him, he's been that kind of person that helps to keep this thing very safe. It was interesting for me how many times he would come to me with some new trivia information that I probably would have taken for granted, but would discover to be very, very helpful with staying on time with like developing some of those necessary steps to being an athlete at the top of my game and enhancing my career. One of the biggest things that I'll say in an effort to answer the question you asked me, what is one of the things you learned working with George Farah? Before working with George, I thought that I needed to eat a lot of protein.
Yeah.
A lot of protein. I took pride many years back for a very long time, eating very big meals, consuming massive amounts of calories. George taught me that I didn't need to eat as much protein as I did. And it was a very interesting thing to learn that while working together. You know, I went from consuming massive amounts of protein, like 100 grams, 200 grams in a single sitting. I think when we first started working together, he reduced that to just under 9. Under 9. I remember thinking like, that is, oh man, you're going to make me get skinny. This doesn't even make sense to anything that I believed intuitively, I believe I should be eating more than this. But he was like, hey, but Kai, you know how much pressure your kidneys and your organs would be under unnecessarily subjecting yourself to that kind of punishment? It's one thing if you think you'd like to do that, but your body doesn't need that. While training with George, I discovered that. That's one of the biggest things he taught me. I'm forever changed positively as a result.
А добре, като намалихте протеина, всъщност дигнахте въглехидратите.
Yes. Yeah. Да. Yes.
Значи всъщност въглехидрата е тайната за големите мускули.
It could be, but then there's also times you could push fat too. I think earlier in my career, knowing when to push and pull, I think is an interesting thing to admit here. I say this because a lot of times I've heard people talk about balance without really acknowledging. I think sometimes balance in itself suggests something that's like, it's elusive and technically an idea that serves you sometimes only in theory. As we talked earlier, our sport is about extremes, and certainly when we're talking about the question of extremes, the word balance doesn't really apply.
Ти си известен с много различни подход в тренировките. Колко дълга е една твоя тренировка?
Oh, well, I like to train. Training is good. I think on average, my training session can be about an hour and a half long. It can be 3 hours long. Yeah, I think there's a certain intuitiveness that when I'm experiencing my higher heights, I can kind of get lost in, and certainly I feel better for it.
За съжаление, пропуснахме възможността да тренираме.
Oh, did we really?
Yeah.
When were we supposed to do that?
Yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. That sucks.
Следващия път, next time.
We have to put that on the calendar then. Yeah, I would love to do that. Besides, I'm expecting next year to be a very interesting and big year for the Kai Green realm of possibilities. So yeah, hopefully we'll get a chance to do this again, and I'll take you up on that training day.
Супер. Аз обещавам, че ще тренирам и ще поддържам форма за тая тренировка. Точно. Разкажи първо какви са ти плановете за следващата година, понеже ми стана интересно.
Well, I think there's a lot to be said for possibilities. A lot of times I've seen people say, hey, well, are you thinking about coming back? And the truth is, I'd never retired, but I think there's a certain amount of possibility to consider, if the right conversations are had, I know there's a number of projects that I expect to be working on that require me to be in shape. And next year, I really expect to step into a new realm of possibilities because of it. So I'm interested in getting involved in peptides, and I am so unaware when it comes to the subject of peptides. I've never used peptides.
Really?
And I've almost been embarrassed to even admit that, because technically a lot of people are, it's a growing market right now. There's so many people that are talking about some amazing benefits in the treatment therapy. interestingly enough, I'm also surprisingly getting older. And, dare I not want to say it? I mean, I'm going to be 32 for the next 18 years. I don't care what that grow-in says. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. 32 for the next 18 years. But with that said, I think after the age of 45, there are a lot of things that you need to do to address the changes that occur in life. Just recently, as I prepare to get ready for the next year, I've come to a place where I'm going to accept adding some new additions to my protocol. I'm very excited about it, and I expect to learn a lot more about peptides, about other kinds of treatment replacement therapies, and I'm really excited. One thing about being excited, when you start looking good and feeling better, man, you want to share it with the world and be like, hey, check me out. So on that note, yeah, man, I'm looking to do some exciting things next year. Getting on stage is a very high possibility.
Вау! Супер. Значи е подходящ момент, понеже аз съм на 45 в момента.
Yes.
В момента много е интересна, как да кажа, формулировката longevity. И много от изследванията са насочени към работата на митохондриите и подобряването на работата на митохондриите в животинската клетка. Има и много пептиди, които подобряват това. Ще бъде интересно да споделиш след това твой опит.
Yes. I look forward to it.
И много.
Indeed.
Много от, как да кажа, клиниките в света се опитват да се сложат логото над 100. Longevity, 100.
You know what? I don't know if I want to live over 100. I mean, who wants to die? Certainly not me. There's something to be said for experiencing a diminishment in the quality of life. I think quality life, the ability to live with the experience of a high quality is something that I really, really want. When I say, oh, I want to live forever, I want to live for a long time. One thing I just realized I don't think about is like, what if there's a severe diminishment of quality life? Do you still want to live for a long time? That to me is one of the things that a lot of the new technologies that improve healthcare or proper health management, partake in therapy that help you experience quality life with a high ability to function. That's what I want. And if I can have that, then I want more of that. So it is definitely one of those things that are leading me to think in those directions, to experience, peptides, some of the new peptides, explore. There's a number of treatment options for like joint repair and just a number of things that I think will ultimately help me feel better, and appreciate the idea of getting older, while experiencing a better quality life as I do it.
Като заговорихме за здраве, опасен ли е бодибилдинга?
No, I don't think bodybuilding is dangerous. And I'll tell you why. The athlete or the person that's interested at the root of this experience is self-development through self-mastery. That's not dangerous. You know, the idea of a man or a woman that aspires to improve their functionality or experience of quality life through exercise and see an improvement in their ability to develop themselves forward positively, the ability to take command of the nutritional components of their life, regulate themselves in issues that allow them to, you know, maybe get off blood pressure medication, do any number of positive things as a result of doing through this lifestyle experience that's about self-development through self-mastery. I'm a bodybuilder. I think bodybuilding essentially is not unhealthy. I think there's a way to approach doing this thing that a lot of times is misinterpreted as bodybuilding that might be just a misappropriation of the term.
Да, но и много професионални състезатели в целта си да подобрят формата, надскачат, преминават границата на здравето и са платили с живота си, като Далас Макавър, например.
So Dallas McCarver is, God bless him and his family. You know, he was a personal friend of mine, and for a couple years back, we both worked with the same supplement company some years ago. You know, he was a friend of mine. I don't know. There's a part of me that certainly doesn't want to say anything that would inflame or upset anyone that would get a chance to hear this interview at a later time. I think you could very easily sound insensitive to say certain things without really thinking about that. I think what happened to Dallas McCarver was unfortunate. It's very painful for a lot of people because his life touched a lot of other lives, myself included. I think responsibility is very important, you know. And in the words of, I guess, Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5, they said, stop. The love you save might be your own, you know. You know, we want to be able to make responsible, well-informed decisions. And for doing that, the life you save or help to experience better quality may be your own. I would want to encourage every young bodybuilder, every aspiring athlete to be sensible in the way they choose to approach this experience. But it's definitely not the experience of being an athlete, of being a bodybuilding competitor, is not at the root of it destructive. Yeah, I think personal responsibility is very important.
Искам да поговорим и за съперничеството с Фил Хит. Какво ти даде тази надпревара? Взели ти или ти даде всъщност? Как го оценяваш ти?
The takeaways for the experience of, if I had a takeaway that I would talk about that experience, I think I don't want to inflame or inspire people to I don't want to sound like a hater.
Имахте много сериозна надпревара.
All right, I'm just going to be a hater. I'm a hater. I'm a hater. I'm a hater. I got some haters.
Okay, come on.
I think that so there was a time, and I know a lot of people don't get it, but there used to be a time where part of the dream of this sport for the athlete that's truly aspiring to not only compete and graduate progressively to the different stages of competition, but there was a time when it really meant something to get ready for your Mr. Basement qualifications and compete in the Mr. Basement Classic and the Teenage Mr. Connecticut and, you know, the Mr. Hudson Valley. You competed in those shows, and then eventually you moved up, and then you competed in more successful shows, and you moved up, and then people in your gym kind of started to look at you and maybe say, man, maybe you could do this thing. Maybe you could go all the way. Hey, maybe even be in those magazines. Maybe even on the cover. Move up in competition ranking. Could you imagine Joe Weider issues you a contract possibility and you could fly out from where you were to California and really become capable of living the bodybuilding dream? Go to the Joe Weider headquarters, the Master Blaster. Allow him to put you in the covers of his magazines, promote you as the new talent within the Joe Weider kingdom. There was a time where this was highly sought after by only the most elite level athletes in this sport. If you do a Google search and find those photos of Boyer Cole or Lee Haney, Franco Colombo, each one of them standing there with Joe Weider, the Master Blaster, and his hands, his fists on their shoulders, as if you'd made it to a higher echelon in the sport. There was a time where that really, really, really meant something. Joe Weider created the Mr. Olympia. The Mr. Olympia. Man, at some point, that was the Super Bowl of the experience. Now, here's something that's very interesting, because I got the opportunity to fly out to LA after years of looking at the photos and reading the magazines and seeing the other guys that I looked up to taking that photo op with the Master Blaster in the Joe Weider office, experiencing the true magic of what it means to arrive in the sport. But Phil Heath was there, and he'd already been there before me. My photo op with Joe Weider was rained on, but I got it. I appreciated having it. It was something that it represented a monument of achievement in the sport. I got signed to Flex Magazine, and I earned my first publishing deal with Joe Weider. This was truly a monumental time and experience for me in my sport. The stage was set for the Olympia that year. They were giving a golden send out. Joe Weider was possibly not going to live beyond that. So this was the big one. And, you know, they made some different choices. They just marked me down in the points because of our exchange on stage. That wasn't supposed to happen. I think it left like some unfinished business on the stage. I don't think we got some really solid answers. The last year that we engaged in competition, they said he won. But if you look at the points and you understand what happened, I don't think that was. I think there's still unfinished business there with that. But because Joe Weider passed away after that, you couldn't get it back. We can't go back now. There was a time when that guy was playing basketball. I was a bodybuilder, competing in the teenage Pee Wee competitions. I am bodybuilding. I just didn't feel rubbed right with that. And quite honestly, I believe I'm still entitled to feel the way that I feel about it. But I will also say this. Technically, Phil Heath, because that happened like it did, Phil Heath became the last legitimate Mr. Olympia existing under the Joe Weider reign. The Weider kingdom has collapsed. It's moved on. The Olympia still exists, but it's new. You know, that Weider of Mr. Olympia, I think, left a very sour taste in my mouth because that was the last year that Joe Weider was alive. I was a kid collecting muscle and fitness magazines. I knew what it meant to be able to go to the Weider headquarters because you were a champion and you were signed to the Weider brand. I don't think that he really appreciated the value of what was offered him. I'm entitled to my own opinion, but he's the last Mr. Olympia from the Joe Weider era of what it meant to be. Now, there have been great champions since then. You know, Samson Duida, Derek Lunsford, Hadi Chopin.
Какво? Ако искаш, не ми отговаряй на следващия въпрос. Винаги съм се питал и искам да ти го задам. Какво си казахте тогава, когато се сблъскахте с Фил на сцената?
Honestly, I don't know. I've heard Ronnie Coleman say, you know, when they asked him about squatting, you know, 800 pounds, you know, does he regret it? Would he do it again? You know, when, you know, years later faced with some of the health issues or concerns, and he said, I should have got 2 more reps. To ask me what we said, what he said to me or what I said to him, then looking back on it now, I didn't say enough. If I could do it again, man, especially if I was going to be penalized anyway, I think it should have been more disruptive, to be honest.
Много често има спекулации, че има политика в Олимпия. Сега даже на последната още повече. Има ли наистина политика?
Well, I think a political component is everywhere, you know. Certainly with bodybuilding is no exception. But with saying that, you know, political favor is like a door that can swing both ways. So I think that just means that there's work that you have to do that's not just in the gym training or even performing on stage. But in order to get the political favor, there may be some extra work necessary that I don't think is uncommon. And for me, I think it's very realistic. And you can do it. I wish I'd have done it.
Изкуството. Ти също се опитваше да рисуваш.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have a piece that I'm working on now. I'd like to possibly share it around the time of the Arnold Classic next year. It's really cool. I'm excited about that. I've created a character that actually is I have my own independent comic book company. Yeah.
Super, nice.
And
The Predator.
Huh?
The Predator.
Well, you know, it's funny thing. Actually, the Predator was a name that was given to me. Steve Bleckman in Muscular Development magazine. You know, Steve Bleckman, who was the editor-in-chief, the owner of Muscular Development magazine, he actually went a long way in helping me get my career off to a great start. In 2007, he offered me my first publishing deal, my first publishing contract with his magazine. And it immediately took me from training and competing on my own, and it allowed me to associate myself with what became the first publishing supplement deal and sponsorship that allowed me to become a full-time professional athlete doing the sport that I loved. It's funny, I got to give Steve Bleckman a shout out because he really did give me an opportunity to grow my career and step to a higher platform. Prior to that, I had a journal. I used to keep my journal. I would train, and I remember when I started getting ready for that season, I remember wanting to be a professional athlete, wanting to be able to approach this very aggressively and seriously. And every day in my journal, I would write out the things that I wanted to accomplish on the other side of this competitive season. At the close of the season, I was expecting to land my first publishing deal, have a contract with a publishing company, and have a sponsor, a supplement sponsor. Every day I wrote it out. I would also write out my meals for the day, the training system that I was doing that day, how many reps, how many sets. My goal each day was to come up with 100 things that I could do that day to bring me closer to the goal. Fast forward, at the end of that season, it did happen. And Steve Bleckman was largely responsible for that.
А сега да поговорим и за марката, която промотираш в България и за партньорите Фитнес 1.
Yes.
Как стигна до Фитнес 1 и до самата работа с тая марка, в която работиш в момента?
So, Core Champs is our supplement company. And it is my esteemed honor and privilege to be able to represent our brand all over the world. Now, I am not a stranger to the idea of working with the supplement company. But with saying that, Core Champs and I have been able to create this new opportunity that has allowed us to meet up and partner up with Fitness One to take our message and our brand out on tour and even have this moment to share with you now. This is my first time in an area such as this. I don't think I've never been. I've been to Bratislava. I've been to but never Bulgaria. There was a time that this would have been a name that I'd heard on the BBC radio or NPR, places of lands that are far, far, far away. And just the ability to be able to travel and meet people that are joined with me in the same like mind, that appreciate training, can benefit from good supplement, and could share with me in the opportunity to build something great. I'm thankful to have this opportunity. So Core Champs has been very helpful in allowing me to realize something that's important to me at this time in my life. And Fitness One has come on board as a wonderful distribution partner that is helping us take our message that much further.
Посетихте колко? 2 града до сега или 3 в България? Русе,
София,
Бургас. И сега ви предстои ходене до Гърция.
Yes.
Видя ли всъщност колко много хора са твои фенове в България и как си достигнал и до България?
It is amazing to see people respond well to some of the things and ideas that matter most to me. I don't think it's like a fan as much as it is being connected to people that can appreciate a cool idea. We're joined by an idea, positive self-development through self-mastery. I think people that can appreciate that and are in association with me or my name are not fans. I think we're joined by the appreciation and respect for those ideas. And those ideas...
Както ти си имал този респект към Джо Уидър. Може би един бъдещ олимпиец се е снимал с теб тези дни.
Yeah. You know, it's crazy because people can tell you when you're younger, don't work at that. Don't put your time into investing in that. They'll tell you that you can't do. They'll have you second guess and doubt yourself. I think one of the biggest things that I get back when I get a chance to meet a lot of the enthusiasts that we're talking about now, when you realize what we have in common, our respect and appreciation for these ideas, it's worth it to work. You know? For every time I was a young man training in the gym when I was younger, and somebody asked me, well, why are you doing that? Why do you spend so much time in the gym? Or for every time I was at work with my food in Tupperware, going into the break room and take chicken and rice again? You always eat chicken and rice? Is that all you eat? Why do you do that? As if the work was in vain. All these years later, when we have an opportunity such as this, we're here in Bulgaria, we're on the tour, we're getting a chance to meet with the people, engage with them, spread our message, share in developing our relationship with Fitness One. It's worth it to work. That's the strong reference that I get from this. Yeah. Your work was not in vain.
Ако създадеш филм за живота си, какво заглавие би му сложил?
Man Child in the Promised Land. Well, you know, so here's the reason why I say that is because originally I wrote a comic book called Chronicles of King Kai. And in that, I did the same thing that you're asking me. What I tried to do was this. In issue 1 of Chronicles of King Kai, there's a boy, one of 2 brothers, that are in the police precinct, and their biological mother was arrested. Now, both boys are very, very young. One of them we know today to wear a scar down the right side of his face. He was the eldest brother. At that time, I can remember having to ask myself 3 questions. What happened? How did we get here? What's going to happen going forward? And the most important question, what will happen to me? Now, here's the thing. I spent the next 5 issues of that comic answering those first 2 questions, and the last 6 issues of that comic specifically answering the 3rd question. I'm still answering this 3rd question even now, as I have the opportunity to talk with you today in this podcast. I've learned that your ability to answer the question, that most important question, what will happen to me, is determined by you, the work that you do, your willingness to put your best foot forward to create associations that will help you advance ideas that you believe that by supporting will help you advance. What happens to me will be what I say. It took me a long time, but I understand now that to train, to walk through that experience of going to the gym, to associate myself with brands and become a brand builder built myself into a trademark, seek out alliances and develop great relationships with like Fitness One, Core Champs. What happens to me? There is the answer. For everyone that's aspiring to be something in their life, to succeed, to grow, I believe that's technically why we've come to the sport of bodybuilding, the experience of bodybuilding. At the root of this experience, I believe, is the idea of self-mastery through self-development. And with all these examples, I offer to you the answer to this question that you asked me. Chronicles of King Kai was the movie that I would have. My version of Man-Child in the Promised Land. Because a man can become truly what he wills himself to be, even a comic book superhero.
Мисля, че това е доста подходящ завършек на разговора. Сподели много интересни неща за следващата година. Може би нова сцена, може би нов продукт като комикс, може би започване на нов филм. Много ти благодаря за разговора и за откровенността. За мен беше истинско удоволствие. Кай, истински ти благодаря. Бъди здрав.
Thank you. Don't break my hand. It's a very strong grip.
И очаквам да тренираме следващия път.
Yes. Da.
Чао.